It took 2 full weeks before the air stopped tasting like it had been cooked. Not food. Not wood smoke. Flesh. 2 weeks before you could breathe without feeling it catch in the back of your throat. And the whole time, we did what people do when the world becomes too big to hold. We pretended. We trained. We cleaned. We planted things in the dirt like the dirt still listened. We argued about routines, about chores, about who was on watch. Because if you can argue about small things, you don't have to say the big thing out loud. We even took turns stepping outside just to steal a mouthful of air that didn't feel poisoned. Not out front, though. Never out front. We started using the back entrance so the kids wouldn't see what was left in the open. Because out front, the ground kept its own memory. Black silhouettes burned into it like shadows that refused to move on. The kind of mark that tells you the world can stop being a world in a single moment. We moved around those outlines like if we didn't look too hard, they wouldn't be real. Like training and gardening and cleaning could scrub the day away. But you can't scrub away the air. You can't scrub away what you smelled, what you saw, what you heard. And you definitely can't scrub away what it wakes up inside someone who's already carrying another massacre in their chest. That's what I didn't understand at first. I thought we were all just trying to survive the same thing. Turns out Spade wasn't only living in the last 2 weeks. He was living in another time, too. It was after one of those backdoor cycles outside, when the camp had gotten quiet in that uneasy way. The kind of quiet where everyone is awake, but nobody's talking. Spade came up beside me like he'd been walking with a sentence in his mouth for days and finally ran out of places to hide it.
Uncle John, I don't think I feel like being alive anymore.
He didn't say it dramatic. No performance, no reach for attention. Just flat and honest, like he was reporting the weather. I remember staring at him, waiting for the next part, the part where he walks it back. Nothing came. So I asked the only question I could shape without breaking. Is it what happened out front?
It's that, but it's not just that. It reminded me of the trial. The harvester's trial. The smell. The amount of blood all at once.
He said trial, like it was a season. Like it was a place you could go back to without moving your feet. And then his voice changed. The sadness didn't leave, but something harder slid in on top of it. Rage, so clean and bright it almost sounded calm.
You ever notice how people think time heals things? Time doesn't heal anything. It just spreads it out so you can pretend it's smaller.
I didn't argue. There are moments where arguing is just another way of refusing to listen. I knew, in that moment, that Spade wasn't about to tell me a story for comfort. He was about to hand me something heavy and make sure I understood the weight of it. And I'll tell you something I'm not proud of. When he started talking about the old days, about the escape, I realized how much I'd tucked away. I was part of the first 10% who got out. After Cindy and Jim Bell's father died, everything became urgency. We focused on breathing, on running, on staying one step ahead of being caught. And because survival takes up all the space in your head, I didn't think about the ones who didn't make it. Not the way I should have. Not the way they deserved. I told myself there was no time. I told myself we'd come back. I told myself a lot of things. Then Spade looked me in the eyes and started his tale, and every excuse I'd ever built turned to ash.
Uncle John, I need to say this first. I've said it to everyone who got out early. We forgave you the moment you escaped. You don't understand that. You think we hated you for leaving. But seeing somebody break the cage first, it gave us hope. It showed us fear could be pushed back.
That landed like a punch because it was mercy I didn't earn. Forgiveness from people who were still trapped, offered to the ones who ran. He kept going, and as he spoke, I could feel the air tightening again, like the room remembered with him.
After you left, my father was next to be converted because he tried to do what you did. But my father, he wouldn't leave any harvester behind. That's who he was. He almost pulled it off, too. And then Nero came down himself. Not a guard. Not one of his dogs. Nero.
I'd heard stories of Nero the way people talk about storms. You talk about what he did, but you avoid talking about the moment the sky actually opened above your house. Spade didn't avoid it. He walked straight into it.
Nero subdued my father, dragged him to the chair, and started cutting him. He didn't stop. He wanted my father to break. When my father didn't break after 900 cuts, they got tired of waiting. So they forced me forward. They made me finish him.
If you've never had your body go cold while your brain is still on fire, I'm telling you, that's what it felt like listening. Like my insides froze and burned at the same time. 900 cuts. I couldn't even picture it. And then I did, and I hated myself for having an imagination. Spade's hands were steady when he talked, but his eyes weren't in the room anymore. He was back there, a kid being handed a blade with no right choices left.
My father, he broke his restraints. He snatched the knife out of my hand. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Live free, son. This sin is mine to bear." And then he plunged it into his own chest.
A father choosing the only kind of control left, deciding how the story ends so his son doesn't have to become the one who ends it. I felt something in me crack when Spade said that line. Not because it was poetic, because it was final.
It shocked Nero just long enough. I grabbed the knife from my father and sliced Nero's throat. Just like that. And for a moment, everyone froze. Guards, Nero, all of them. Long enough for me and the children to run.
I wanted to ask 100 questions. Did Nero fall? Did he scream? How did Spade's legs keep moving? How did the children understand when to run? But those questions felt like me trying to get details so I could file the story away neatly. Like I could organize it and therefore survive it. Spade didn't need my curiosity. He needed me to grasp what it cost. He swallowed, and when he spoke again, his voice was quieter but sharper, like a blade you just honed.
I hadn't seen that much blood again until 2 weeks ago. That's why the smell did it. It wasn't just the bodies out front. It was all of it coming back at once.
2 weeks of burnt air, 2 weeks of walking past scars in the earth, 2 weeks of pretending you can distract your way out of trauma. And finally, he got to the thing he'd come to say, the ask, the reason he'd been carrying that storm in his mouth.
I need a favor, Uncle John. And it's a big one. Before the resistance is destroyed, Nero dies. Like really dies.
People love to call that revenge. But listening to him, I knew it wasn't that simple. Revenge is hot and quick and selfish. This was heavier. This was a debt being named. A promise being collected. A promise to a father who took a knife into his own chest so his son could keep his soul. A promise to every harvester who didn't get to be part of that first 10%. And that's when the guilt found me again. Not the guilt of being alive. The guilt of being alive and not looking back enough. Because we ran, and we told ourselves we had to. And we did. But we also left people in the dark, and we didn't carry their names the way we should have. Spade carried them. Every day. So I answered the only way I knew how. Not with speeches. Not with comfort I couldn't guarantee. With the rule that separates digging from fighting. Picks down, guns up.
Yeah.
For a fraction of a second, his face changed. A brief, almost startled smile. Like he couldn't believe someone finally said yes to the thing he'd been choking on. And then the smile vanished, and that 1,000-yard stare came back. The one that tells you the person is still standing there, but their mind is watching the past happen all over again. The weight of it hung between us thicker than the stink ever had. 2 weeks of death outside. Years of death before that. And now, a simple sentence that drew a line in the dirt. Because here's the problem, and I said it out loud to him, not to shut him down, but because lies won't help us. Spade, Nero isn't just one man anymore. He's a symbol. And symbols are harder to kill than flesh.
Symbols still bleed.
He said it like a fact, like gravity. And maybe he was right. I looked back toward the front, toward the place we refused to let the kids see. Toward those burned-in outlines that told the truth even when we tried to live around it. I thought about the father in the chair, cut 900 times and still refusing to break. I thought about a boy forced to hold a knife, then using it to open the throat of the monster long enough for children to run. And I thought about what Spade asked me without saying it. Are we doing this with a plan, or are we walking straight into the fire and figuring it out as we burn? So here's where we stood, right then. A camp trying to pretend it's normal. Kids being guided through back doors. Adults washing their hands like the smell and the memory might come off. And one young man who finally spoke the truth. He can't carry this alone anymore. And me? I had an answer already, but answers aren't enough. Promises aren't enough. Not against Nero. Still, I gave Spade what I could give him in that moment. Certainty. We're not going to ignore what you lived through. We're not going to ask you to bury your rage just so the rest of us can sleep. And we're not going to let Nero stay untouchable because it's easier to fear him than to face him. Picks down. Guns up. Now the only question left is how. Not if. Because if Nero is a symbol, then we don't just have to kill a man. We have to kill what he makes people believe. And that takes more than rage. It takes a plan.